Good morning. Good morning. This is Morning Cup with an entrepreneur. And today we have the honor and privilege of being with Mr. Andrew, CEO, owner of RedBalloon.Work. And as always, I got the non-juvenile delinquent, as he says, Trey with me. Trey, what you got? What you got, Trey?
Not much, man. I'm excited to interview Andrew. Thank you for taking me out of the juvenile delinquent bag. I appreciate that. We got a lot of people in our audience that, it's a tough economy, so people need jobs. Got to get out there, and I'm interested to see where this conversation goes.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Andrew, you would like to introduce yourself to the people?
Yeah, absolutely. I also have not been in juvenile, so we got a couple things in common. I'm pretty excited about that. I grew up in California. I got tired of living in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, so moved up to Idaho, and I live on 60 acres with 10 minutes from the office. I got 5 kids, 3 big dogs, living the dream. So it's pretty amazing. I've been blessed to start a bunch of businesses and sell a bunch of businesses. And, in my mind, starting businesses is a way to bless other people. And if you can pour yourself out in that way and create jobs for people, create opportunities for people, young people, old people, whatever, that's amazing. And obviously the latest one is Red Balloon. Part of the reason I started this is because I got fired from my last job for being a conservative Christian back in the crazy times of 2020. So I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to go start another business. And I think that's a lesson for all of us. Like, don't let a hard thing hold you down. Go do something that'll bless other people. And you never know how that's going to turn around. And so far, so good.
And that's interesting that you say that you was removed for being a conservative Christian in the workplace. I feel like everybody should be able to express their beliefs as they please, even if we agree or disagree. I feel like we should be able to all talk as humans because we all have our experiences in life that make us view the world that way. But sometimes a simple understanding and talking to people will help you understand their plot. Might not agree with you, but it leads to respect. It leads to mutual respect for each other.
Well, and I remember it used to be, in the workplace, you could disagree on something and, over beer or whatever, whether it was politics or religion or whatever. And I thought that was great. Like, let's debate stuff out. Let's have and then still be able to go to work tomorrow and not have to yell at each other and get all angry. So I think we've lost that in America a little bit, and it'd be nice to get back to that.
Yeah, people get offended easily.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's the nature of, that's why I really don't get into the whole politics and religion at work, because everybody kind of grew up in different environments and everything. It seemed like everything is, I guess, subjective in a sense.
Yeah, offensive.
Yeah, and it's hard to kind of break through those barriers of communicating with people, to a level where you're not arguing and screaming and yelling at each other, to a way where we can find some type of common ground. Like, hey, look, man to man, woman to woman, human to human. Like this is how I view things. Instead of it, let's take all the emotional baggage out of it and let's just get to a ground level of understanding. I think that's where we're at in this world, trying to understand everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and my whole theory was look, you should bring your whole self to work. You don't want to try and, dissect a piece of you, what you believe, your whole belief system. Right now, when you try and use your belief system to push it down somebody else's throat, whether you're a conservative or a liberal or I don't care, you should be at the workplace to provide value for your customers, to provide profitability for your business, and to provide just a joyful work environment where you don't get offended easily, right? But you still bring your whole self to work, right? And I had a lot of people work for me who had totally different worldviews. And they're like, this is the safest place I've ever felt because I know that you're not going to beat me up for my belief system, what I do on the weekend. I'm like, look, you go do you, that's fantastic. And while we're at work, we're going to work hard, but we're also not going to get offended, right? If someone says something right-leaning or left-leaning, sometimes I'd be like, that's a great topic for beer after work. And then let's go argue that sucker out there, because right now we got to solve this customer problem. But that's what made America great, because, what do they say in business? Every good idea comes from 9 bad ideas. Mm-hmm. And if people feel like, man, if I throw out a bad idea and someone's going to get offended, well, I'm just not going to throw it out there. Well, what happens is you lose that innovation. You lose that ability to kind of give and take from each other. And that's where the innovation has kind of fallen off in America. So I think if we can get people to not be offended, and I don't know how we got on the topic, but if we can get people not to be offended at work or in other areas, it allows us to innovate, right? Tolerance. And that's really where we need to go.
Tolerance. We need to bring back tolerance of each other.
Before you get, I would like to know, like, what was that like? Like, starting that moment where you got fired for something that's just like insane, in my opinion. And then you have to start over. Like, how was that?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. Like, well, it wasn't funny at the time, right? When you're in the middle of, this long drawn out battle with your board, because and just for context, right? I'm running this business that I'd helped found. It was a $50 million business at this point, a SaaS business. We were growing 25% a year with a 40% margin, right? We were like printing money for the board. But I sold it a bunch of times, so I didn't have very much ownership left. So I didn't have enough pushbacks, right? So we go through this elongated battle, very painful, not my favorite thing. My wife was super supportive. She's like, you're doing the right thing, so stick with it. In fact, she gave me like a 40-year-old bottle of scotch as a way to go, you lost your job. I'm like, well, that worked
That's
out.
love.
So
That's love right there.
that's love right there. So anyway, then, you have, you go on vacation. I'm doing a housing development. I got a bunch of commercial real estate. So I have plenty of things to say grace over. But there's like 2 months in, I'm like, man, I just had to make a decision between my job and my values. And there's going to be a lot of Americans that have to make that decision and shouldn't have to make that decision, right? It shouldn't be that there's this terrible connection where it's like, well, you either have a job or you have values. You want people who show up to the workplace with their value system and then crush it for the business, right? That's what you really want. So I'm like, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to create a job board with a thesis around freedom. And I'm a tech guy. And so my brother and I literally went in the basement of my house and spent a weekend and wrote a job board. We're like, ta-da, we made a job board. It works. People can post jobs. People can apply to jobs. We're going to charge businesses like $19 a month just so that we can keep the servers going. And then I'm just going to leave it, right? I'm going to make some videos on LinkedIn so that people know it's out there. And then I'm done. Like, I'm back to my housing development. I didn't want to start another business. I didn't feel like I had the emotional energy to do that again. And then like literally 4 months in, maybe less, I don't know, pretty quickly in, Fox and Friends calls me up and they're like, hey, we heard you have the nation's leading pro-freedom job board. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I have 20 businesses on here, maybe 1,000 job seekers. Like, it's a complete rounding error compared to the U.S. economy. And they're like, no, you're the only one out there who's saying, and basically what my stance was like, look, I want businesses who want free people because free people think better. They work harder. That's what made America great in the first place, which means you should not have a vaccine mandate because we think that people, if they want to get a vaccine, they should have that conversation with their doctor, not their HR department, right? That seemed like common sense. And that's what I said to all my employers. Well, evidently, I was the only job board out there that had taken that stance. And so I get on Fox and Friends, and I'm like, well, sure, I'm happy to get on. And actually, side note, I didn't know what Fox and Friends was because I'm not really a media guy. And I'm like, is this a kid's show? Like Fox and Friends, like, hey, Mr. Weasel, what are we going to do today? Right? I'm like, what is this thing? Anyway, so I get on, and it turns out it's actually a really big deal. We had like 40,000 people on our website, like instantly. I added 1,000 businesses and 500,000 job seekers in the next 2 months. And I was like, no, I've got a business again. I didn't want to do this.
The last
right?
thing you wanted.
Yeah, like, right. I wanted to take a year off. I wanted to play golf, hang out with my kids, whatever. So anyway, that's how the business started. So I would like to say that I had, brilliant strategy, but really it was just dumb luck.
So you answered pretty much the first 5 questions. So one of the questions I want to ask is what challenges have you faced in promoting that freedom first approach in the job market?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's been really invigorating because I've run a lot of businesses over the years. This is the only business where I get unsolicited thank you notes from perfect strangers every single week. People saying, I just found a job through Red Balloon. It changed the trajectory of my family. I've had people write and say, I just wanted you to know you saved my marriage because of the job that I found on Red Balloon. I'm like, man, why is that? And so I talk to these people and they're like, well, when you swim in woke waters for 8 to 10 hours a day with people pushing a worldview down your throat, right? And again, I don't mind if an employer wants to take a stance on something, that's fine. Just don't push your worldview down everyone's throat. Again, conservative, liberal, let people live their values out loud, right? So when someone's doing that to you, when they're pushing a worldview, when they're pushing a whole kind of mindset on how they have to think about themselves, their coworkers, the world around them, well, it really has an impact on how you interact with all your other relationships in your life. And so, these people are saying, I found a job through Red Balloon. I'm free at work. I still show up for 8 to 10 hours a day. I still bust tail. I still provide a ton of value, but I don't feel like I'm have these shackles of having to act a certain way that has nothing to do with what I believe. And so anyway, I start getting these thank you notes all the time, which is like, okay, and that's kind of the fuel for me, because when you can be blessing other people at scale, it's a lot easier to fight through stuff. And then I've had lots of media outlets say nasty things about me. It's actually, you see my last name, it's Crapuchettes. There's no way around it. It's French. I have 3 boys and 2 girls, and my boys just think it's the best thing ever, and my girls can't wait to get married. But it is funny because like Reddit will, Wired did an article about how stupid Red Balloon is because we're standing for freedom. And Reddit has this whole channel about how dumb Red Balloon is. And every single person on there thinks they're the first person ever to realize that my last name has swear words in it. They're like, oh, look, his name. Oh. And then it's kind of like Beavis and Butthead all of a sudden. And it's, I find it very entertaining because they think they're the first one to think of that joke. Anyway, doesn't bother me at all. So, but when you stand for something, you're always going to get flack, right? And I'm standing for freedom in the workplace, but I would say no matter what you stand for, if it's something you deeply believe and it's not in line with what everybody else believes, you're going to get flack. And if you let that bother you, then you shouldn't stand up in the first place because you're going to feel it, right? But it's totally worth it, right? What's the legacy you're leaving your kids? Like, how are my kids going to remember me? Are they going to remember me as a corporate cog who made a 6-figure salary? Or are they going to remember me as someone who stood up for freedom in the workplace, who had a meaningful impact on the lives of thousands, hopefully hundreds of thousands of people? Like, that's what I want to be remembered for. And of course I'm going to take flack for that, but so what? I don't care.
Most definitely. What you got, Trey?
Do you hire woke folks?
Do I hire woke folks? Good question. I would be happy to hire someone if they're willing to sign on to the values of what Red Balloon stands for, which means they're probably not going to be happy here. I'll give an example of this. So when I ran my last business, every time I was the final interview and I hired 1,000 people, right? I was the final interview and I said, look, I want you just need to, is a full disclosure of what you're coming into. I am an unapologetic conservative Christian. That's just who I am. I'm not going to force that on anyone. I'm not going to hand out tracts at work. I'm not going to be weird like that, but that's who I am. And I'm going to run the business that way because that's going to affect every one of my actions. And some of the ramifications of that are we're going to have a kegerator at work, but we're not going to get drunk. We are going to have a zero gossip policy here at the office. So that just means that you don't talk bad behind someone's back. If you have a problem with someone, you go talk to them right away.
You
right?
address them.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're a man or a woman. You approach the problem. And
that's
there's
exactly it.
Zero wrong with that. It's so funny you say that because so many jobs now, one thing I dislike about things is anonymous complaints.
Right. Oh, man, I hate that.
Oh, man.
Like,
I used to get hit with them all the time.
Don't like it because it takes the human element out of it. People will see something wrong and won't address it then and there.
Right.
They're rather go type a anonymous complaint and everybody hair is on fire for this anonymous complaint when this person couldn't even come and stand up in front and say, hey, you did this wrong or you wronged me. Let's talk about it.
That's right.
I felt this type of way about it. Sometimes just that instant communication and getting to that point of understanding, because I tell people we're all from different walks of life.
Totally.
We all see, I might have never seen a white person in my life, right? So if this person says something that offend me, I should talk to him and say, hey, bro, that offend me, and educate them. And then now they understand, oh, okay, that offends you. All right, bro, my bad. And it's respect. And we go back to work. But people will go, oh, man, he said something. Like they hear conservative Christian, that's like a buzzword, right? Oh, man, this dude, he doesn't like black people. He doesn't like Hispanic people. It's like, you don't know that. Get to know the person.
You don't know that. That's exactly it.
Yeah, I'm big on not like, because me personally, I don't put myself in a box, right? And that's why I was asking that question. Like, would you like what determines if they woke or not? Like how, like I think I like the core of what you're saying. Like you got to have morals and values, right?
That's right.
And that's what and if you're not morally aligned with your company, then 9 times out of 10 you're not gonna be happy.
That's right. That's right. And you want diversity of thought. You want diversity of ideas in a business. You want diversity of backgrounds because that's where innovation comes from, right? If you have everyone that's a cookie cutter employee, that's going to be a failure, right? You're just not going to have great ideas coming out of that. But if you have someone who wildly disagrees with everything you believe, well, you're going to run into so many head bonks on stuff that just doesn't matter, right? So anyway, so I would give this full disclosure and I'd say, and what I mean, hitting the no gossip thing, I said, look, if you come in my office, I'm the CEO of this big company, you come in my office and they say, hey, Andrew, I think you're screwing up on this, or when you said this, I think it was really bad. I might give you a raise because I know I have blind spots. I know I have things that I'm not seeing. And I love people who have the guts to come into a CEO's office and say, hey, you're screwing up, right? And I need that. You need those people around you. Think differently, right? That's fantastic. But if you come in my office and say, hey, so-and-so is screwing up, and I just, that's just really, I'm like, my first question is, did you already talk to them?
Thank you.
And if the answer is no, then get out of my office and I might fire you for that. Or several times what I'd do is I'd be like, that's amazing. Okay, why don't you wait here and I'll be right back. And I went and got that person and I brought them in. I'm like, why don't the three of us talk about this right now? So-and-so just said that. Let's try and get to the bottom of this. Well, that is a hugely awkward conversation, which I loved. I thought it was amazing.
It shouldn't be awkward though. It shouldn't be awkward.
It shouldn't be awkward. But guess what? It kills gossip in the workplace. And then suddenly people, they have the ability to innovate. They know their coworkers not stabbing them behind the back all the time because they know there's zero tolerance for that. But anyway, so I just say, this is what I believe. This is the way I'm running my workplace. If you are comfortable, you are welcome, right? If you are not comfortable with that, then you should know this before you come into the workplace. And honestly, in 15 years of hiring thousands of people, 2 people are like, you know what? I'm just not comfortable with that. I'm like, you know what? Then we just saved each other a ton of time because you weren't going to be comfortable here. You're going to be potentially toxic in our work environment and you weren't going to be happy. So great, fantastic. God bless you. Go find a job somewhere else and no harm, no foul. And honestly, that's legal, right? I'm not asking them, hey, do you go to church? Do you believe this? I'm just saying, this is what I believe. I have the boldness. I have the courage to say, this is what I believe. This is what I do. Everyone is welcome. It's not a weird thing. It's not a prerequisite, but this is who I am. Are you comfortable with that? And if they say yes, then welcome. I'd love to have you. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. And a lot of people, like I say, it goes back to tolerance. People want you to tolerate them, but they can't tolerate you.
That's right.
It's so crazy. You see that in the world. And I tell people, because people ask me on political beliefs, I'm like, I don't believe in none of it. I'm just an irritant. Whatever I feel like irritating somebody, I can argue. One day I could argue like I'm a liberal. One day I could argue like I'm on the right. Like,
sure.
It doesn't matter because I just see you for who you are. I'm going to treat you as a human. If you show me respect, I'm going to show you respect. Point blank, period. Because people is like, can you talk to somebody? Because I'm from Louisiana and I went to school with people that were actively in the KKK, right? These kids growing up. And it's like they are getting bused to the predominantly black schools. So it's kind of like a barrier. But as you go on in life, that barrier comes down because now they're learning. They're like that image I had of you isn't there. Like, that's not true. You're a totally different person from my beliefs. And now these people are some of your closest friends.
Yeah, amen. And here's the funny thing is, in the work environment, you look at this whole work from home movement, which sometimes it's the best thing for your family, right?
Yeah.
I got a great job. I'm working from home and, God bless you. That's a good thing. But there are some real downsides to work from home, right? It's not this panacea because when you never interact with someone except over Zoom, when you never get to shake their hand or, grab that perennial, a beer after work, or just do things with people, then you can start to build a rubric or an idea of what that person's belief system is that's totally wrong, right? And all of a sudden, you're now putting them in a box that is wrong, and you never have the opportunity to build that relationship and realize, no, they're a real person. They're not just a category. They're a real person. And so that is the downside of work from home. And I think that's actually built a lot of animosity in the workplace, because you have to be way more intentional. When you have work from home employees, and I know this is a CEO who does, you have to be extremely intentional about how do you bring them in the office? How do you get people together, doing social things, doing things where we're building relationships and bonds because we're human beings.
Breaking down barriers.
Right?
Breaking down barriers.
I think that's going to be a complex thing to kind of like try to figure out because, like, for instance, like me, I work in Atlanta, but my bosses are in DC, and you lose that human element. There is no bond, like everything is on a weekly Zoom call. So
that's right.
I think the world changed so vastly and a lot of business structures changed. It'll be interesting to see how, what the shift be like as far as getting back face to face. Cause a lot of people I know, vets who got out, they telework in one state. Well, they live in one state and they telework where the job is based out of a whole nother state. I'm like, yo.
That's right.
How's it going to pan out?
Yeah, I value the workplace office relationships. I try to tell people, because I got a lot of people that have issues with other people, and I'm like, have you ever just sat down and not talk business? Have you ever just went in there and just shot the shit? Have you ever just said, hey bro,
Amen.
like what's your team? What's your football team? How's your kids? What do you like? What makes you go? Because I'll tell you, I have a guy, he's one of my right hands, right? Nobody really likes him because he has his image. If you see him, he's this white guy, and they think that, oh, he's just this one way. And I'm like, bro, he's a big teddy bear. He acts tough, but if you go sit in the fucking office with him, this guy's probably the nicest guy you will ever meet in your life. But they don't take the time to humanize people. They just got this perception, and they hear him barking and they stay away. And I'm like, bro, just go talk to him. Give a fuck. Just sit down and talk to him. Put your feet up and say, hey, bro, what's your team? Like, what do you like in life?
Amen.
So,
amen.
I guess it goes back to that bring them in my office, bring both of them in my office and have a conversation, and let's get to the bottom of it. Kind of goes back to that. As far as like, I guess advice you would give job seekers and employers who are, looking for guidance that value like those type of opportunities.
Yeah. So, a couple things. When, and again, this has been really the last 4-ish years since 2020. Like, a lot of things have changed. COVID kind of disrupted the whole labor market. And you kind of got this weird animosity between employers and employees. Gallup right now says that 67% of Americans are either disengaged or actively disengaged at work. That's 2/3 of 150 million people don't like their job, right? Well, that's not good, right? Because you're not going to do your best work. You're not going to be joyful. You're not going to be fun to work with. You're not going to come home to your family full of energy because, man, we crushed it today. I had so much fun. I solved problems, did things for customers, right? And so that has accelerated significantly. And so we're in this funny moment where you need to reset your mind around work. If you're a job seeker, like, man, how do I find an employer that allows me to work really hard? Like, it's okay to work a 10-hour day and do hard things and crush it for customers. Like, that's a good thing. And you'd be surprised, it's actually deeply redeeming. And that's part of the reason. So RedBalloon.Work, it's .work, not .com, because I'm like, man, work is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's actually good for our souls. If you read Nissim Taleb, he talks about, like, the human body is a funny thing. We need hard things or we're going to die.
We need the stress.
Right? We need the stress, right? If you lay in a bed, which you think that's the safest thing, for weeks on end, your blood will pool and you'll die, right? So we actually need the stress, the hard things, right? And I think we not only need that for our bodies, we need that for our minds. We need to be able to solve hard problems. That's what work is. It's a good thing. As a Christian, see, work was in the Garden of Eden before Adam and Eve sinned. Like, work is a thing that God gave us to do, and it's a good thing to do. So anyway, that's why it's RedBalloon.Work. Because I think when you change that mindset, like, I see work as a good thing. I'm not just trying to earn as much money as I can so I can get to retirement at 52. No, I want to work because I've been given a body and I want to bless as many people as possible before I die. Like, that's what I'm here for. And when your mindset's that, you're going to love your work so much more. You're going to love your life so much more, right? So if you're a job seeker out there, you need to find an employer who actually allows you to do that. And you don't spend all your time in meaningless training and meetings and all the things that come along with a big corporate job sometime, right? And sometimes there's some big corporate jobs where you can really innovate and do cool things, but you need to find your people. And so there's a lot of different ways to do that. But if you are a job seeker, you need to think through, what is the type of employer I want to work for? Mm-hmm. And then you need to actively be going out and looking for those type of people, right? Too many times a job seeker will just be like, well, I need a job that'll pay the bills, which is fine. But
you're not gonna be
take
happy.
A little bit of time, talk to your family, like, what's the dream job that I would look for? Not the dream salary, the dream job. And when you start with that mindset, it actually helps you think much more clearly about the type of business that you want to find. Obviously, you're going to find a bunch of pro-freedom employers on RedBalloon, but there's great jobs all over the place. And when you find a job you really love, no matter what the salary is, you are going to have so much more joy in your life. And then I would say for the employers, like, I've seen too many employers, and part of this is taxes and regulation. It's very expensive to hire someone today. Like, I was talking to an employer and they're like, and they're in California, and they're like, if I hire a $100,000 person, it costs me $180,000 because of taxes. Like, well, that just means that you're not going to take a chance on someone and give them a $20 an hour starting job, because it's going to cost you that $20 an hour is going to turn into $50 an hour once you add all the taxes in, right?
And that's ridiculous.
And so, but the problem is we have a group of young people that don't know how to work, and employers aren't willing to take a risk on them because it's too expensive. So first thing is get out of California.
I just had to do that. I had a donut shop, and I had to shut it down because I was paying people $16 an hour to try to sell a dollar item, and I'm $15,000 in the hole every month. That before I even opened up the shop doors, I'm $15,000 in the hole every month. Right. So now I got to work just to make $15,000, just to break even, to make sure that the bills and the payroll is paid. And it just was too much. It was just too much. And I'm like, I'm only selling a dollar item. Why are you punishing me this hard? It was just so frustrating. And I wasn't getting the good quality of workers that really cared. They just wanted a job because the job paid. I had to pay them $16 an hour.
That's right. Well, and if you look at the labor force participation rate, which is basically the percentage of the total population that's actually participating in the labor market, right? You're generally in the U.S. About 62% of all people, right? Because you got moms, you got kids and all that stuff, right? That's great. But if you look at 16 to 19-year-olds, those are people who are in a very formative part of their career. That labor force participation rate in the year 2000, so 24 years ago, was about 50%. Through COVID, it dropped down into the low 30s. So only 30% of 16 to 19-year-olds are actually getting those life experiences, that is working at a donut shop, working at McDonald's, learning how to look people in the eyes, shake a hand, get things done. Well, what do you think that does for culture? So, as an employer, I actually hire a lot of 16 to 19-year-olds at Red Balloon because I'm not only going to get value from them, but I'm investing in their future because while they might not be the most productive employee today, although sometimes they have ideas that are like, wow, I would have never thought of that because I'm stuck in the framework of I'm a business guy. I know what to do. And they're like, well, why don't we do this? And I'm like, whoa, that's amazing, right? So I would encourage employers, look at some of those young people, give them a chance. You got to be in a state where you can afford to hire a young person. Mm-hmm. But there are opportunities out there to get really, really talented people if you're not stuck in a very tight framework of, well, it has to have they have to have a 4-year degree and 5 years of experience and all those things. There's some really talented people that I've been able to get who are driving our business forward, and is awesome. So anyway, long story boring. You need to find a job that fits with your worldview, what you enjoy. And as an employer, you need to find your tribe. Find people who believe in what you're trying to accomplish, who have different perspectives, who have a different worldview. That's okay, but are pushing with you or rowing in the same direction and want to try and accomplish what you're trying to accomplish.
Yep.
Okay, you gotta
go ahead, Trey.
I guess establish what your purpose is. One interesting thing that you said that I thought that stood out is a lot of time when people are looking for jobs, all they do is look at the salary.
That's right.
And usually even if they fit the description, all the qualification within that salary, if it's not something that's within your purpose or something that you're driven to do, you're just going to get the job and not be happy. And then it's going to be a lose-lose situation for both of you guys.
I go look at the salary. I want to make 180, and it's I don't like guns, but the gun factory is paying me 180, and I just go get the job 180. Now I'm being toxic in the workplace because I'm not happy, and we're making guns, and you got people that'll do that. You came to this job, and you knew what it entailed, and you're mad at us for doing what we want. It's not good. You got to go.
Yeah, what are you doing? Yeah.
And these laws make it hard for you to get rid of those people that's like that. So I love the idea of matching people with the mindset of things that they want, that aligns with their core values. So if I'm advocate gun person, I'm the Second Amendment guy, and I got a job at a gun factory, I'm gonna be happy.
That's right. No matter what your salary is, right? And you got to take care of your family, but you're going to be happy. You're going to enjoy your work. You're going to enjoy the people you're working with.
And you brought up that Gallup stat too, because I had that in my mind. I saw another stat. It said 78% of employees value a workplace that allows for open expression of diverse opinions, even if those opinions differ from the majority. 78%. Yeah. So you definitely own to something that's, a lot of different companies should take into mind. What's your future vision for Red Balloon?
Yeah, so we are in a funny place in America where HR has become far too powerful. I'm just going to hopefully offend some people, but whenever you have a group or an entity within an organization that has more authority than they have responsibility, right? So if the VP of sales says, I need a new sales rep, and the HR person says, well, I'm only going to hire people who are transgender. And so it's really hard to find people who are good at sales and transgender. So you're not going to get a salesperson for maybe 6 months. Then they get to the end of the year and they miss their sales number. Who's going to be responsible for that? Well, the VP of sales. So they have all of this responsibility without enough authority with which to be able to execute on the responsibility they've been given, right? And that's just how the world works. There's a certain amount of authority and responsibility to go around. Well, HR all of a sudden has all of this authority, but they don't have to live with the consequences of their actions, right? They don't have that responsibility. And so anytime you have that, you're going to cause tensions in the workplace. And so I think that work can be a great thing. And so my vision for Red Balloon is I want to redeem the world of work. I think work can be something that supports families, that builds communities, that builds people. And I would like to have HR have less power. And what that looks like is we're building HR software. Right now, we have an applicant tracking system that really helps you walk through the hiring process, but we're trying to do it in a distinctly human way, because most of you out there, if you hear an applicant tracking system, you think that's an evil thing that is just trying to destroy everyone's life, right? And that's because it's all algorithms, right? They're trying to let the AIs make what we believe is a distinctly human decision of who to hire and a career for a person. And so we're thinking entirely differently about how do you build hiring system software that brings efficiency and effectiveness to the hiring manager without dehumanizing the people applying for the job, which I think is really, really important. So that's where we're starting. But then the question is like, oh, well, how far down the road can we get into payroll and benefits and really making people feel welcome and like they're part of the mission of a business? And can we do that with software and systems that empower hiring managers? So maybe we don't need as many HR people out there. And I have had, and as full disclosure, I've had a phenomenal HR person at a couple different of my businesses. That's amazing, right? But there are a lot of HR people that unfortunately, kind of rule the roost. I talked to a Fortune 500 and he says there's only 3 people that I'm afraid of: the chairman of the board and my wife and the HR person. And I'm like, man, I get that, but the HR person shouldn't have that much power, right? And so anyway.
Yeah, nobody
so
has firsthand
that's where we want to go
with that.
Yeah, I got, man.
Messed up and hired a homeless man that ended up robbing his donut shop. That was wild.
Yeah, that was trying to be nice. Trying to be nice. Don't get me on the homeless people, man. Look, I'm all for it. But if you can beg, you can work. That's my philosophy.
That's 100%. Yes. And that's RedBalloon.Work, because work is good.
Exactly.
One thing
matter of fact, I'm gonna send them to that board.
There you go.
As far as we have this program called Skill Bridge that help with like transitioning from whatever workforce you're in, like military to civilian. Do you guys have any type of programs as far as transitioning, or what does that look like?
Today we don't. I would love to. The last company that I ran, I actually was the nation's leading labor market data company, and we were dissecting the world of work at the skill level and built one of the biggest skill taxonomies, which would help you understand, okay, if I have this basket of skills, this skill inventory as me as a talented person, what is the next skill that I should go get that's going to have the highest positive impact on my earning potential and my joy at work based on what all the things that I earn? Because if you're a Java developer and you're like, okay, should I learn SQL or should I learn Hadoop? Well, there's no real data out there to let you know which one is something you're going to A, enjoy, and B, make the most money if you learn that skill, right? And so, but if you're a construction worker and you're offered, do you want to learn SQL or Hadoop? The answer is none of the above, right? So it should not be a one size fits all. Here's a skill set that everybody should learn. So that's where I'd like to go with Red Balloon, where you can help people understand their current skill inventory and then what is the next best thing that you can do that will have the most profound impact on your earning potential and your career opportunities. Unfortunately, today, what Red Balloon does is we're a job board. So you can post jobs, you can apply to jobs. If you're a job seeker, everything's free to you. And in fact, we have a lot of resources like the Employee Bill of Rights and Responsibilities that our labor lawyer put together. So you can actually go in there and find out, like, if I'm in the workplace and I don't love what I what my boss is telling me to do. Where do I have rights? Where do I have responsibilities? And where should I just suck it up and, get back to work? So those are free resources, job seekers, everything's free for job seekers. And it doesn't cost a lot for an employer to post a job. So that's that side. And then we also just do recruitment. So if you have, and we just helped Tucker Carlson find someone, which was kind of fun. What basically we go through and we say, look, tell us the job you want to fill. And then we're going to effectively work for you for 2 months. We're going to bring you multiple awesome candidates that are aligned with your values. And then you're going to be able to hire them, because a good hiring process should take 20 to 30 hours, right? It should take 20 to 30 hours. And most small businesses simply don't have 20 to 30 hours to devote to one hire. And so they offload that to us and we take over it. The other thing is 75% of small businesses in America have had a labor-based lawsuit in the last 5 years. 75%. And so
That's insane.
we have a labor lawyer on staff. And so we're only going to bring you people who are aligned and
That's
probably
good.
not going to sue you, right?
That's
So we're going to
good.
try and save them a lot of effort there. So that's where we help. And we can help you find great people, and we can help you find a great business.
So I got this question. What are your thoughts on college versus trade?
So I'll give you a stat on that. So we surveyed all of our employers and all of Public Square's employers. So it's 80,000 employers. And these are all right-leaning, conservative, generally small businesses, right? So it's a representative sample of the 32 million small to medium-sized businesses in America. And we asked them about this question. We said, hey, when you see a bachelor's degree from a major university on a resume, is that a positive, a negative, or a neutral? 40% said it was neutral, like they didn't care. And I was like, oh, well, that's actually pretty interesting and meaningful, meaning that you just spent $100,000 on a degree from a major university from LSU and the employers don't care, right? Okay, well, that's good to know. This is what was crazy to me. 42% said it's a negative. It hurts the opportunity. And I'm like, well, why? They're like, well, because the universities today, it used to be a college degree meant something, but when you are given participation awards, you're like, it's almost impossible to fail out. And you're being given this kind of Marxist, you're special, you're unique mentality all the time. They're like, why would I want that in my workplace? Because everyone I hire, they think they're a snowflake and I have to treat them carefully. Like, no, just get to work, suck it up, buttercup. And so they're like, I don't want to hire those people. I'd rather get someone who's gone to a trade school, learned to work with their hands, maybe even bled a little bit, when they smash their thumb with a hammer. And so depending on the job, obviously, if you're an engineer, I don't want to drive on a bridge from someone who's not gone and taken all those math classes. If you're a nurse, I don't want someone, who's like, well, I'm making it up as I go. Like, that's not good, right?
Yeah.
But I think on a lot of jobs today, a lot of the vocational stuff, it's way better. And I think employers are starting to come around to that. And so you might save yourself 2 years of education and $100,000 of debt and get yourself a better job.
And that's what I've been telling kids. I'm like, I see this big push for people to go to college, and I'm like, man, go learn a skill, go learn a trade, go learn to be an electrician, a plumber.
Amen.
Like I got my cousin into being a plumbing, and now he's making way more money than me.
He's making bank.
He's
totally.
traveling. He was just in Indiana working at some battery factory and just making bank, man. Just making bank being a plumber. And he loves it. He loves it.
And that's where it's like you're focused on the work. And sometimes when you focus on something you love, you make the most money. You don't start by making the most money, but you make the most money in the long run and you're happy. And like, that's way more important than a big pile of money.
I'm telling you, man, it's a beautiful thing. Like he showed me his work site. He's showing me the crew that he met.
He showed a plumbing job, did he? Like,
no, he was doing a pipe fitting for the place, and he just enjoyed it. But
nice.
that's good. That's good. The data don't lie. Data don't lie.
Data don't lie. Employers don't want people who have been at a Marxist-leaning university training you to be an anarchist. Like, they just don't want that.
Just training you to be toxic in the workplace. Just training you to be offended in the workplace, basically. Right. A lot of people, like I say, just come into the workplace and you can't have a tough conversation with them, because if it doesn't go their way, then they're going to try to find out, oh, he was mean to me. He said these disturbing things to me, and I don't feel safe.
Right.
We don't need a safe space at work. You just need to be a man and a woman and own up to it. Be held accountable. And if somebody wrongs you, hold them accountable. If somebody said something to you that you didn't like, address it. You ain't got to fight about it, but you just let them know where you stand. Totally. And I'll respect you more. If I offend you, and I tell all my guys, if I offend you, tell me. tell me I offend you. I remember I called one guy, I was like, you look like Jeffrey Dahmer. And he's like, I don't like that. And I said, I apologize. My bad. I didn't mean to offend you. I wasn't trying to say to offend you. I apologize. And he's like, all right, thank you. And we've been great ever since.
And you're good, right? It should be over, right? We don't have to hold on to that. We don't have to have that chip on our shoulder. Like, no, like if you did something wrong, own up to it. You know, as I tell my kids this all the time, like all of us are sinners. We're going to do stupid things. I'm going to do a lot of stupid things. And when I do that, I'm going to own it. I'm going to ask your forgiveness, and then it's done. Like it's over. And it goes the same way. And that is so just relieving. And when you introduce that type of mentality to a workplace, I will tell you, you will have a high-performing, joyful workplace in a hot minute. And it's totally worth it. It's going to be super awkward when you're like, okay, so we're not going to do gossip anymore, and I'm going to have to call people on it. But man, like within months, people are just going to be like, oh my word, I didn't realize the burden that was lifted off my shoulders because I was just carrying all this, like, you know, who's going to be knifing me in the back? Who's talking about me right now? Who should I be talking about? I'm playing politics all the time. Like, no, just handle things like a man or a woman.
Yeah, I think it should be like some type of like perfect blend of like education and labor. Cause like we said, we do acknowledge that the education side is worth it. And we've seen it like several times, especially like in different military positions where like you'll bring in someone, this officer who just graduated from wherever and have all these degrees and accolades, but when it comes time to do the job, they don't know how to do a hands-on job and have to lean on the people who don't have the education as far as, but they have the experience and they have to show you now how to do your job, which you are getting paid more than them to do, which is weird.
Yep.
So I'll speak on that firsthand. So in the military, you got a thing called thoroughbreds. Thoroughbreds are people that went the traditional route. They went to college, got their degree, then came into the military. And then you got this thing called the Mustangs. Mustangs are the guys that came in and enlisted, went through the ranks, and then they went into an officer program we call officer. And it's like night and day between the two. You got the Mustangs that if it's a problem rises, they go get it done, right? They know who to talk to. They know how to talk. They know how to relate to the people under them. And you will see a lot of people say, I value Mustangs for that. Whereas a thoroughbred, same rank, they're just lost in the sauce, right? They don't, because they're taught not to talk to these people, not to integrate these people, or they'll get you fired, and they don't know how to maneuver. And it's something they have to learn, but they're so far behind the curve later on in life that it just, some of them burn out quick. Some of them burn out quick. So, but
I think as a country, if we can find like the perfect blend of the two, it'll be beautiful.
Well, and I'll tell you, I never went to college. I started working when I was 16 because I like to work. And then my wife is Dr. Crapuchettes. So I like to refer to us as Dr. Crapuchettes and sub-GED Crapuchettes.
And there's nothing wrong.
And we make a good team.
Exactly.
Look how successful you are.
Exactly.
Look at you ran 6 businesses, so you have some kind of success. It's all about intelligent life experiences and just the opportunities that you have.
That's right.
A college degree doesn't make you any better than anybody else.
That's right. And my oldest son, who's 20 now, and he actually works here at RedBalloon. He did 1 year of college. He's like, Dad, I just don't know if this is the right thing for me. And it was a Christian college. It was great. He learned a lot of things. He's like, but I do know I need life experience. And that's some of the things you get from college. So he went off to Africa, and he went to African Christian University in Lusaka, Zambia, where he was the only white kid. And it was amazing. Like, I saw him grow up and see people from different perspectives. And he was only there for 3 months. And it was just an amazing experience for him. And so that's part of what you get in college. And so if you can accomplish that in some other way, and sometimes that's just being a Mustang and be like, no, I just know how to work. And you're going to get that experience doing that. And you're going to be a plumber. You're going to go to Indiana and do pipe fitting for a huge factory. That's awesome, right? But that would be my only pushback, is that part of what people get in college is that experience, relationships, etc. And so if you can accomplish that in another way and see a different culture, go live in Spain, go live in Africa, go live in India for 3 or 6 months.
I want to live in India.
That will change your life as a
I would
young
not live in
person. And
India.
when you're 20, do it. Like, go get that done.
I couldn't do India. I've been to India, and I was out of both ends the whole time.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
at least you got a good plumber now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
What advice would you give an aspiring entrepreneur who wants to launch a mission-driven business?
Yeah, and obviously RedBalloon is mission-driven for me, and it's part of my story. So this is what I tell every entrepreneur. Don't start with, I want to make a lot of money, as we've talked about. Don't start with, I have this great idea, and I'm going to go build a business around this. because it might be a terrible idea and you don't know that. You need that market feedback first. Start with, this is the problem I want to solve, right? And so go and talk to 10 people and find out what's the most painful part of their day. What's the biggest problem that they have? And then use that as the fodder to, okay, what's my great idea that's going to solve that problem? Because business is about solving problems for people, because if you solve a problem, they will pay you money to solve that problem.
Yep.
And so don't start with your idea. And that's just this self-centered approach that all of us are tempted towards, right? Don't feel alone, that everyone wants to do that. Don't start with your idea. Start with the problem that you're going to solve and who you're going to solve it for. And if you do that, then you're going to have a much higher probability of success, because you now have a group of people that you're solving their problem. And when you solve people's problems, they will give you money. That's just how the world works. And so for an entrepreneur, if you want to start a business, you need to have a very clearly articulated problem that you're trying to solve. Even if you don't have the best solution yet in the world, you're going to figure it out. You're going to apply yourself, but you start with that North Star, is that problem, the customer problem. And if you're a mission-driven business, as Red Balloon is, like, what was the problem I was dealing with? Well, I just got fired for having a belief system at work, even though I was, I never had customers complain about it. I never had employees complain about it. It's just the board was like, we're nervous about you. I'm like, okay, cool. So anyway, long story. But so I would say, like, you need to have a problem you want to solve. And if that problem is something you're passionate about, then all of a sudden you have a mission-driven business, right? And that problem doesn't have to be some big, cultural, spiritual thing. The guys at Uber, they just simply didn't want to wait for a taxi anymore. They were tired of getting in some random taxi that they like, okay, so I'm in Indiana. What's the phone number to call for a taxi? I have no idea, right? So they're like, that's a problem. I'm going to solve the problem. It's a problem for me. Let's see if it's a problem for other people. And so for every entrepreneur, I'd say start by obsessing about your customers' problems. And when you do that, you're going to be successful. You don't know when. It's going to take time. It's going to be a ton of hard work, but you're absolutely going to be successful. So there you go.
Okay. So next question I got is how can job seekers employers best utilize RedBalloon.Work to find their perfect match?
Yeah. So if you're a job seeker, as I mentioned before, go to RedBalloon.Work. You can fill out a job seeker profile. Everything is totally free there. And what you're going to do is you're going to be putting yourself in a database, and it is a self-sovereign profile. In other words, we are not selling that data to someone unless we are telling you who you are being sold to. It's like all of us have a LinkedIn profile. We love it, or a Facebook profile. That data is being sold. That's how they make their real money, right? It's not on advertising. It's they're selling your data. So we do not sell our job seekers data. You can make your profile public or private. Once you make it public, then all of the employers on Red Balloon can reach out to you. Well, that's an amazing experience, because I will tell you this, when you're applying for a job, it is very, very personal to get rejected, because if you're selling a widget or you're selling software, if the customer says, no, I don't want that, they're saying, no, I don't want this thing you're selling. But if you're applying to a job and they say no, or they ghost you or whatever, which happens unfortunately a lot, they're basically saying, I don't want you, right? Well, that's very, very personal. And so you join a resume database, a profile database at Red Balloon, and an employer taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, I'd like to have a conversation about a job or an opportunity. That is a way better experience than trying to apply to lots of jobs. You can also apply to jobs, right? And I would encourage you to do that. You're going to find that the employers on Red Balloon are generally smaller businesses who care about people. They are, most of them are right-leaning, and they want to hire people who want to show up, work hard, and live the American dream. So if you're a job seeker, everything's free for you. Get on there, RedBalloon.Work, fill out a profile. It's going to change your life. It's going to be amazing. If you're an employer and you would like to avoid that lawsuit, as I mentioned earlier, 75% of all small businesses have had a labor-based lawsuit in the last 5 years. If you want to avoid that lawsuit and you want to hire people who are going to build your culture and not try and tear it down, then you should be posting your jobs in Red Balloon. You should be using our recruiting services. And we would love to just come alongside and be a deep blessing to your organization so you make more money and have more fun. That's really the point. I mean, that's what we do for employers.
You have a number of employers, users, I guess, regions that you guys are working with as far as like stats and whatnot?
Yeah, so we have about 5,000 employers who are on the platform. We've had about 2 million job seekers on the platform since we started. And we have about 150,000 a month right now that are on the platform looking for jobs. So, I mean, these are values-aligned people. We actually make all the employers sign a pledge that they are going to respect the freedom of their current and future employees, and that they think the U.S. Constitution is a good thing. That's all we ask them to do, right? And then for the job seekers, we say the pledge is you're going to show up and not be a whiner.
I like it.
Pretty straightforward, right?
I like it.
And so if that fits you, then RedBalloon.Work is the right fit for you. And we're going to be a blessing to your business. We're going to be a blessing to your career.
And do you have many tools to help them build a resume on the website?
We do.
Okay.
And actually we have just awesome people. And this is the one thing you do have to pay for. If you want someone to write your resume and do your LinkedIn profile and help you with a cover letter, we have found some partners that are clear thinking people who have done this for thousands of people and are way less expensive. You can spend like literally thousands of dollars on someone helping you with that. And so, but we have a partner where you can go in there and they can get on the phone with you, help you write that resume, work on your LinkedIn profile, your Red Balloon profile, and they're going to do it for a reasonable price. So yes, we absolutely want to help people in that way.
Have you thought about offering services to small businesses like that are starting up, like helping them with payroll? You already do the job recruiting for them. So like, say I'm a business and I got this money and I just started my business. Could I come to you guys to fully staff it and help me? Like, hey, how do I do payroll? You got any CPAs or anything like that?
So we do have a number of folks that we recommend.
Okay.
CPAs and tax people and HR professionals that we can kind of point you in the right direction. We've also helped a lot of businesses because if you Google HR docs, you're only going to get horrible documents that are going to destroy your culture. And so we have built employee manuals and offer letters, and we just try and give those to as many employers as possible who want them.
Awesome.
Because we want to be a blessing to people. I will also tell you probably 3 times a week, I'm on the phone with one of our customers and they're just buying job postings, but they're coming to me for business advice or staffing advice or how do I deal with stuff. Like we love our customers and we want them to be successful. So, we have 3 kind of principles that we live by at Red Balloon. Bless the customer, which means we want every customer to be better off, better able to do their job, whether they buy anything from us or not. The next one is bless the employee. We want every employee at Red Balloon to be a better person because they work here. I want them to be an even better employee for their next employer when they end up leaving Red Balloon. I want them to be a better part of their community, love people better. And then we want to bless the shareholders. And the shareholders have to be third, right? I'm all for authority and people. I've had some investors who put some money into Red Balloon. That's amazing. But we start with customers, then we go to employees. And then the shareholders will be blessed if those first 2 are blessed before them.
So is there a tool to report back, say that the company, they did sign a pledge, but they're not adhering to that pledge? Is it a way for the worker to report back to you about that?
100%. We've had a couple like that where they'll just shoot us an email and be like, this company seems squirrely, or, they're not being honest in the interview process, or they're not getting back to us. And we'll actually coach our employers like, you need to be building your employment brand, which is not just, I'm just trying to hire people, but you think of, as an employer, you need to be thinking about your employment brand. And that's probably a topic for another discussion altogether. But when you ghost people, when you don't treat job seekers who are applying to a job, which is a meaningful change in their life, and you don't even give them the time of day of a response, that is hurting your employment brand significantly because you don't know who that person knows or if they're going to be the perfect employee for you in a year. And you need to treat them with respect.
Much so. Trey, what you got?
Okay, I guess I keep looking at your red balloon that's on your sweater. I'm just intrigued. Like, what's the story behind the red balloon?
Okay, so, there's a lot of things. So, have you ever been in a hot air balloon?
No, I'm good.
Okay, so I love heights. I'm a skydiving guy. I love that stuff. I'm crazy. Like I had friends on Team Rollerblade in San Francisco. We did stupid things, but I'm going to leave that. That's a topic for another day.
That's the reason why I haven't been in a red balloon, Andrew.
Yeah, there you go.
I was out in the Bay, and they always had these red balloons. Every so often, like one would just pop up in my backyard, and just people would just be like, they don't know where they're gonna land.
Right. So anyway, so that's the story. So I'm on a hot air balloon in England, in Dartmoor, which is where the Hound of Baskerville is written. Nice, cool area. And I've got 3 of my kids with me, and we're up there, and I'm not asking the guy, like, how do you control this thing? And he's like, well, you got to go up or down and try and find air that's going the right direction.
Hell no.
Right? Like, oh, okay. And the ocean's over there. What if you just start going for the ocean? He's like, yeah, we've had to do some emergency landings because we're going to the ocean. I'm like, oh, cool. That's really amazing. So you don't have a lot of control. The other thing that's interesting is it's super quiet up there because you're going with the wind. And so there's no wind noise. It's just like perfectly quiet, and you're kind of above all the noise. And it felt a lot like the job search process. You're going somewhere, you don't have a lot of control, it's quiet, you're just kind of trying to find your way, and then you end up landing somewhere, and that's your new job. And so there's a lot of people moving to red states, moving to red regions of blue states, moving to red businesses. They're moving to places where they can be free at work, where they don't have a worldview pushed down their throats. Ta-da, red balloon. Also, funny story on the landing. So we're about to land this hot air balloon in England, and the guy's like, he's like, okay, we're going to land in about 20 seconds. He says, and by the way, you're the seatbelt for the kids, so you better hold on. I'm like, what? He's like, okay. He's like, get them all along the side of the basket, put your arms and pin them as tight as you can, because otherwise they're going to bounce out. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, no, do it right now. I'm like, ah! And the kids thought it was the greatest thing. And they're like, oh, it's so fun. I'm like, oh. And then we land and he's like, oh, good job. I'm like, could you give me a little more warning? Anyway, so there you go. There's the job search process in America. And that's why we call it Red Balloon.
And I'm going to tell you, in our group, what we'll call that, that's that white people shit. Like, that's that white people shit.
I get you. Like,
No,
why would you
good.
do that? Why would you do that?
I ain't jumping out no helicopter. No,
Jumping out of a helicopter. I'm not getting in a balloon. I'm not jumping off a mountain with the little wing things on.
Yeah, I do all those things. I went swimming with
Scuba
sharks
diving?
in South Africa, all that stuff.
But you know what? I love watching it, and I love hearing the stories.
Yeah, there you go.
I ain't doing it. Because I'm intrigued by it.
White people shit. I love that.
Yeah, that's white people shit. White people shit. You just go, somebody go, man, you want to go up in the balloon? Because where I live in Temecula, they have balloons. You see them all on the weekend. Every weekend, it's all in the sky. And people constantly be like, man, I'm like, that's white people shit. Why the fuck would I want to go in a balloon, bro?
Yeah, I'm fine right here. It's good.
I'm good. I barely like to get on the airplane, but I like to keep it low
so
in control. Yeah. But we appreciate you. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up? Any final thoughts from you, Trey?
No, I'm good. Great interview. I appreciate your time, Andrew. Oh, yeah. I guess final thoughts. Where can people come find you as far as social media apps and whatnot?
Yeah, the main. I mean, obviously, go to RedBalloon.Work. Again, it's not .com. That stands for communism, and we don't want communism. We want hard work. Remember, so anyway. So RedBalloon.Work. That's where you want to go. But I will tell you, LinkedIn is probably where I'm most active. I mean, I try and put out a post every single day on how to build culture, how to apply to jobs, how to think about the workplace. So I'd encourage you, go follow me. I'm the only Andrew Crapuchettes out there. It's pretty straightforward to find me. So, and gentlemen, I am grateful to be on here. I've enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you.
And I guess
coming by.
my final thought, dear listeners, is go do something hard and brave, because your kids, your family, your legacy will be based on that. Don't do the easy thing, do the hard thing. And it will be a blessing to you, and it'll be a blessing to your legacy. So go do it.
Just builds a resiliency and be tolerant of people.
Amen.
The simple thing. You have a problem in the workplace, address it with the person. Don't be anonymous. Don't be anonymous. But I appreciate you for coming by. Tell Isaac thanks for reaching out.
Yeah,
really
totally.
Appreciate it. This is a great interview. Really appreciate it. Don't be a stranger. Don't be a stranger.
All right.
And I might have to build me a profile on RedBalloon.Work.
Before you leave, and I need to know, what was the name of that 40-year-old scotch, man? You know, I'm a drinker myself. I'm just curious.
So this is, that was Bunnahabhain.
Tell
you what, you guys come to Idaho. I have a liquor cabinet that's worth the trip. And I will share with you guys, and we will have some fantastic scotch.
I'm telling you, my dream, while you playing and people laugh at me, my dream is to move to Montana and buy 200 acres of land in Montana.
Well, come visit Idaho. I get a guest house. You guys are welcome. I'd love to have you hang out with my kids. We'll have some scotch. We'll go do some white people shit.
I love it. I mean, shooting guns, drinking beer. I'm with it. All right. And on that note, we are out. Thank you, Andrew. Check him out, RedBalloon.Work. Job posting. If you really want to just go to work and be above the BS, you don't want to hear the BS, go to RedBalloon.Work. They have great employers there that are there for you, for what you want, your lifestyle.
And got to stand for something, man.
Yep.
Love it.